Welcome to the Playful Dom, the Poly Wife, and the Virgin podcast, where we share our most intimate stories, experiences, and details of our love lives, our intimacy lives, our play lives, and giving you the opportunity to gaze in and get a glimpse of what could be possible in your life as well. As we share our stories, our adventures, we weave in tips, tricks, and techniques to help build your confidence, boost your courage, and give you the opportunity to ask for what you want in your life. Welcome to the podcast. Oh, and just a couple of quick thoughts before we get started. One, we are just everyday people. We are not professionals, licensed therapists, anything like that. This is for edutainment purposes only. This is not medical advice or legal advice, financial advice, nothing like that. Listen at your own discretion. And this is for mature audiences. We're going into deep subjects and sharing deeply about intimacy and all the things about that. So just notice who you're around and let's go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Playful Dom, the Poly Wife, and the Virgin podcast. I am Jess, the Playful Dom. We've got Lisa, the Poly Wife, and Ella, the Virgin. Here today, we are going to speak about, Lisa is actually going to share with us some of her happy, juicy conversations and connections she's had with men this last week. Because if anyone caught one of our recent episodes about me sharing about women stepping into their power and owning their voice and the bad behavior of men out there, this is a good soothing salve to listen to, a healing balm, and for women to know that there are good men out there. And I know that there are too. I know many of them. So Lisa, take it away.
Well, I had a couple of really great experiences this weekend. I had an absolutely crappy time with my boyfriend Sapio. And I did. It was a total crap show. It was terrible. We had our first fight, and I described it as a fight because for me, if that's what it felt like, for him it was a moment. And
languaging.
That's what it is, right? And part of it was of course communication, right? So he came up for an overnight just so that we could see each other. And I think he came up on Friday evening, and he gets cranky if he gets in traffic, right? So he drove up and he was a little sort of itchy and, anxious and not quite relaxed when he got here. So he's in a bit of a bad mood, and it was a little awkward. And I don't even remember what we did. I think we watched, binged watched a show with Ev. So it was the three of us enjoying our time. In the morning, he wanted to help in the kitchen, and he was making breakfast, and he was in charge of toasting the bagels, and the very outer rim of the bagels got a little bit of burnt. But Sapio does not he gets anxious in the kitchen if there are too many things happening. And so he got a little rattled in the kitchen because there were a few things going on, and it's a very small space. And when we sat down for breakfast, I knew he was still a little bit on edge, and I sat down and I said, oh, how's your bagel? He says, well, it's ice cold. And I was just like, okay. And I said, oh, okay, well, mine isn't quite ice cold. It's room temperature, certainly, but I'm kind of enjoying it, whatever. And I was ignoring his quote unquote ridiculous sort of outburst and trying to make it, it's like, it wasn't that big of a deal. And then because I'm a snarky bitch, he said, do you want some pineapple? And I said, oh, well, the pineapple might be at room temperature, and I know that you really like it at ice cold. He slams it down and he says, it makes it feel unsafe if I tell you what is bothering me, and then you tease me about it afterwards. And he wasn't wrong. I have to say that's fair. He wasn't wrong. I definitely poked the bear. But instead of just fighting about it and realizing it was a stupid fight, letting it go, he was like, can we just, before I go, can we just go in and talk about it? And we ended up talking for about an hour. And what he said was, this bothered me, and this is what you did, and this is how it bothered me, and all of that. And I was just in a pissy mood, and not that I didn't care, but that I was just not saying things that had been bothering me. And so finally I just said, well, you know what? I need you to shift a little bit faster when you get here, and not be here in a cranky mood, because then I'm managing your crankiness, and it's not my responsibility to make you happy, but I have to live with the consequences of you being unhappy, right? So in the middle of the conversation, it's irrelevant really all that we were talking about. What I can say is, in the middle of the conversation, in my head, I'm thinking to myself, this is exactly the man that I have always wanted in my life, is the one who experiences a problem and wants to process it, move through it, get over it, and move on in the moment. Not through, not stew, not, escalate, but just get through it. And I really was so grateful for that. And he was the one who initiated the conversation. He was the one who wanted to make sure things were clear with us. He was the one who realized that he had been crappy, but it provoked me to be crappy too. And he wanted to talk about it. And I thought that was just really special and lovely. And I melted into it and cooled myself, because I became so grateful in the moment to have a guy who wanted to talk about it. Even when I didn't want to talk about it, I was like, oh, wait, this is what I've been asking for all along.
Yeah, you got to be
Go
careful.
for it, right? And it was fantastic. And when he left, I was like, oh, I wish he were going to stay. I really want to stay with him. I really want to be with him. Oh, I can't wait to see him on Monday night. I had a date on Saturday night, and I still didn't want my boyfriend to leave, right? Well, this date on Saturday night was me, another good communication thing, was me with my lover, Luke, who comes down from the Midwest and is my snowbird. And he and I have been dying to go to a swingers club since he got here. And so we went to a local place called the Treehouse. It's not that local to me, but it's north of me here. And I had a great time at my very first swingers party. And it was a Kama Sutra themed party. And so I show up at this home. It's a private home. And I show up at this home, and people are friendly and nice. The place is pretty crowded. And there are 2 beds in the middle of the living room. And they had people demonstrating different Kama Sutra positions.
Oh, wow.
And it was fantastic. They were saying, okay, well, this is how you do it. Now, the people were clothed, but they were acting it out. Well, the people were Luke and another woman. And so one of the things that Luke was saying to me when we were heading up to the Treehouse was, we talked about what our expectations were, what we wanted. This was my first experience at a swingers event. This was not his first experience. And he says, I just want to be a dirty little whore, a dirty slut. I just want to be a dirty slut. And I knew that he wanted to have sex with multiple women while he was there, which I had no problem with whatsoever. But it was so nice that he told me what it was that he wanted, and I could be encouraging of that while he did that. And I said, I don't know what I want, because I'm scared out of my mind. I don't love walking into a situation where I don't know what's going to happen. But he was like, just relax. Here's the thing. If we don't find anybody that we want to play with, what will happen is we'll play together and have people watch us, and we're both exhibitionists, and that'll be fun, just the 2 of us. And I was like, okay, I can, if I know that's for sure going to happen, okay, I can do that. And I am an exhibitionist, doesn't bother me. Well, as it turns out, he and this girl had this woman, it's not a girl, she's a mature woman, had a conversation, and she agreed to play with him in one of the playrooms. So we went into the playroom, and her daddy and I watched while my lover and his baby girl played. And she's doing all sorts of fun things to him. And then he looks down and he says, well, she says, what do you want? And I think he made her come 3 times or something. It was really quite fascinating and fabulous. And she's counting, and her daddy is saying, how are you coming? Are you coming? Yes, daddy, I'm coming. Well, count it out, say it out loud, how many times you're coming. So she got to 3. And she looked up at Luke and said, what would you like? And he says, well, I think what I'd really like right now is for my partner to sit on your face while I fuck you. And I'm like, all righty then. He and I had already established that I'm fine with having oral with whomever chooses to give me oral. I don't care if it's a man or a woman. I don't have a preference, but I'm not attracted to pussy, so I don't want to have to eat a pussy. And she was like, yes, I love that. So I'm not a face sitter by nature, I have to say. It is not my normal position, but there's a lot to be said for it. I'm kind of getting the reason people use queening benches, queening stools, because that was really fantastic. So I'm straddling her head, one knee at each ear, and sitting on her face.
Wow.
He's using a condom, and he's fucking her, and I can feel her tongue, and I was just like, oh my God, she knows what she's doing. It was so awesome. And I was like, oh, that feels really good. So then he leans into me and he pulls down my bodysuit over my breasts, and he's suckling on my nipples while she's eating my pussy. Oh my God. It was really quite fantastic. I'm not going to lie. It was absolutely fantastic. And I came all over her face. And apparently the term for that is waterboarding. I did not know that is when you squirt on a person's face.
So good.
He goes, oh my God, you are so delicious.
Perfect, right? Great answer. That is the best.
I'm like totally out of my, now I'm not in the throes of orgasm or anything, but I'm enjoying myself. I can tell that I'm coming, that it's a sort of an inner orgasm, and I'm laughing, and I start laughing, and she says, oh, am I tickling you? And Luke says, no, laugh. If she's giggling, she's coming. Keep going. So everybody starts laughing. There are probably 3 or 4 people in there. They're laughing. And then he and I started kissing, and he came out of her, and we started playing, and I just was squirting everywhere. It was just so much fun. And she just lying next to me saying, oh my gosh, you're the first woman who's ever done that. Oh my gosh, that was so fantastic. I've got to get your number. And I just felt all happy and thrilled. And it was really pretty fantastic. So this is the communication part in this weekend. Luke sits up, and I have my back to the room while I'm giving him a blowjob, and I'm lying on my stomach, and he says, get on your knees and put your ass in the air and give them a show, the people who are behind me. And I'm eagerly, happily licking and sucking and stroking and doing all my fun stuff down there. And he's narrating as I'm doing it. Oh yeah, she's going deep. That's great. Put it down my throat. Yeah. Does everybody hear that? Do you hear that gagging? Yep, that's great. Oh my God, she loves a cock, whatever. It was so funny. And then on either side of us, on other beds, the other 2 women were also giving head to the men that they were with. And so he's narrating and whooping it up. He's really enjoying himself. And a man walks by and says, is that an invitation? And what he was talking about was the fact that my butt was in the air. This is a swingers event. So usually that would be an invitation to do what you want. Now I'm thinking that he just wants to eat me. And I don't have a problem with that, but I haven't seen him. I kind of need to have some sort of connection with the person. And so I just lifted my head slightly enough and said no. And Lee was like, nope, sorry, that's it. That's not okay. We do what she says. What, you know, if it's what she wants, then she gets it, but otherwise, no. And then he pointed out the gentleman who had asked. And afterwards, I just went over and just started chatting with him and talking with him and exchanging information, because it is an opportunity for us to get to know each other when I go back to this place again. But I really loved that I'm in the middle of a sexual act in a room where sex is happening. Men are watching respectfully, keeping their distance, and then asking permission to approach, even when, quote unquote, the sign is take me. Right. And so in a situation where it could have been easy for me to be violated, I'm in a group and a community of people who do understand the boundaries and are respectful of that. And this was my first swingers party. My husband and I had been wanting to go to a swingers party for a long, long time. And we've always been too intimidated and scared before we started in a lifestyle to do anything. And this is sort of the Sherpa moment. There were very young people there in their 20s. I don't know if they were married or not, but it seemed like it probably was a young married couple. It was Kama Sutra, so I'll say that they were Indian and Southeast Asian. And I have to say that I was so happy and grateful that there were people there who were significantly younger than myself and my partner, right? Like a 30-year span. And everybody was friendly. Everybody was chatting with each other. It was a lovely, communicative, open environment. And if anybody's interested in learning more about it, people are happy to talk to you and answer questions and allow and welcome first timers. Because when I said that was the first time I'd been at a party, like 3 women flocked over to me and wanted to make sure that I knew that I was in a place that was safe and friendly. And the guy who does these parties is well known in South Florida, has been throwing these parties for 20 years and doesn't allow drugs or alcohol, doesn't serve drugs or alcohol, doesn't allow drugs on the premises, and people are BYOB. But there are moderators and monitors and people looking out for everybody's best interests. And it was just such a happy, positive environment. So I would encourage you, if you were even curious, if you have any exhibitionist in you, the key thing I would say is go to a party and just play with your partner. It's just going to be people who are friendly and happy to be there. And if you are an exhibitionist or a voyeur, you're perfectly welcome to go and remain clothed, in, sexy lingerie being, and be able to watch because you're participating in that way. And check it out and don't be scared, because I'm sorry now that I've waited years to do this. Because it was so fun. And even if we just went and sat in the hot tub, at least we're around people who are like-minded, willing to openly talk about sex, talk about positive experiences and places to go, and just be around like-minded people. It was, or just nudists, right? I think it was like $40 for us as a couple to be able to go in there. BYOB, it's a nice evening.
Lisa, do you recommend like any particular sites? Is it more word of mouth, underground? Like if women are curious, how can they know? Is there a good starting place for them?
Well, I don't know that because I'm not part of the swinger lifestyle. I have been a member of SDC, which is Seek, Discover something, but it's sdc.com. And SLS, that's the Swinger Lifestyle Site or something. Again, I don't know what the acronyms are, but we'll put the links in. Those are swingers sites. And those swinger sites are often free to join or a small fee, but they give regular events. So they may give events, swinging local events. I think there may be events announced on FetLife for sure. That's definitely happening. but I think the best way to do it is to maybe just even do a Google search, swinging parties in Athens, Ohio, or, Indianapolis, Indiana, and people just may list them. The Treehouse itself is listed. It has its own website and community that is free to be a part of, and that's in Lakeland, Florida. And Land O'Lakes is a couple of swinger resorts. Caliente is the most well-known. That's part of RCI's network, right? If you own a timeshare, you can go there as part of your timeshare. I think it's the only nudist timeshare in the country is Caliente. But there are resorts, Caliente, Paradise Lakes, and then there's also in Orlando, the name is escaping me, but I'll put the link in the Secrets, that's right, Secrets Orlando. That's a fantastic resort, and I have been there, but I didn't swing while I was there. I was with friends of my own. As a matter of fact, I don't think I played at all. I dressed up or dressed down or little dressed. And yeah, I had a great experience there. And I don't want women or couples or men, I don't want anybody to fear it. It's just a very welcoming community. People who are in the lifestyle.
It's interesting because it's again like this taboo thing, right? And it's taboo because it's just not easily visible in our everyday life. Churches are visible, buildings are visible, like a lot of things just seem like very like, oh, this is the place where we go. The gym, like the library, just like there's these certain like iconic structures that people have built in their minds that are like, oh, these are customary. Even if I don't believe in it, I know what it is, like, that kind of thing. And, meanwhile, in the taboo of sexuality, there's BDSM, there's the lifestyle, swingers, there's, all these different kinds of layers and how they kind of bleed into one another and not. And, there's just a lot of nuance and spectrum in the level of incorporating this. So for me, Josh and I created an SDC profile, I think a week and a half ago for me and Josh, to support, kind of like help hold a little bit more of having another woman come into our space. And I actually have a really great update about that we can hold on to for the next podcast. We're going to meet her actually in a few days. And she is exactly, truly our audience, exactly, of the pent up housewife who's in the midst of getting a divorce.
Really? That's great.
Yeah. And like all of the things to open up. And it's just a beautiful experience. So I'm recognizing too that there's an opportunity for all of us, for men, for women. We can be the Sherpas that Lisa talks about. We also can be really empowered sexual healers for each other, and creating a really beautiful space. So for me, as this woman is kind of like stepping into the foray after like having such a really devastating experience in her marriage, for me to be there to like help ease her body and like warm it up and get her turned on again, and then like to have Josh be there to like help awaken her, like get her back online. It's like resurrecting this vixen woman that was totally taken out by her marriage. Like what a gift, what a gift to be able to do that. So so it's interesting that when we have our desires and our curiosities, and when we can go into it tenderly and conscientiously, like Lisa talked about with her partner before going into the event, what do we want? What do we not want? What is our what is our escape plan? If we need an escape plan, like how are we going to, handle this? This is all part of that the beautiful thing of conscious communication, of like, instead of just entering in blind and cold and, well, we have no idea, and let's just, like, to have the conversation beforehand. Lisa felt more at ease. They had a plan in place. Let's just see how it goes. Her partner understood her boundaries very well. Lisa was able to express her boundaries. They were in a space where boundaries are respected, you know, that there is this opportunity to say no, and there's an opportunity to say yes and to lean in. And like, you know, these are the, again, having a beautiful playground to play in. And Lisa was able to have an exquisite experience. A woman loved her, how she tasted. This woman got to be waterboarded for the first time, you know, like all this craziness, you know, it's all joy. And that's something too for all of our listeners to really, you can really get it, that there is something more waiting for you on the other side of your fear, on the other side of whatever you think is dark. You know, there's reasons why we have desires, because they can be fulfilled, and you can do it in a way that is conscientious, that has integrity in it, that's respectful, that's consensual, that is uplifting and exciting. All these things are possible. So Ella, do you have any final thoughts?
Ooh, I got to get off on mute. Lisa, I'm sweating. Wow, that is like a great story. And I think the best thing, especially after our last podcast, Jess, you know, and again, talking about men and, you know, overstepping boundaries, is that your partner that you were with, again, for by all intents and purposes, you were available the way you were positioned. And that's fantastic. Again, it makes me, my mind, because I'm much more, you know, sheltered, we'll say that, vanilla, is to say, hey, again, it's okay to do this. It's okay to have boundaries. It's okay to set them. And again, your partner had your back. I think it's fantastic. Love it. Thank you for sharing so raw.
Well,
so authentically, you're the best.
It's the only way. It's the only way we're going to learn, is if we actually talk about this stuff, right? And make it less scary.
Yeah.
For me, it's the biggest takeaway, is that all of this is about fun and joy and communication and consent and there's so much possibility when we open ourselves up and are clear about what we want. And even though I don't know what I want, what I know pleases me is seeing somebody else have what they want.
Yeah.
So even though I didn't know exactly what I wanted out of the experience this weekend, Luke knew what he wanted. So anything I could do to support him getting what he wanted, I was like, yeah, I'm in. I'll let you know if I'm uncomfortable, but I don't know where my no is, and I'll let you know when I find it. And I did. So it worked out.
Fantastic.
Really wonderful.
Fantastic.
I do also really quickly just want to acknowledge that Luke knew that when you're laughing, that means you're coming.
Yep.
Luke knew that like when you're gagging, it's actually a good thing, and because you love the floppy juices and like all that stuff. Like, you know, it's so cool when a partner takes their time to learn you. And so then they the nonverbal and the verbal and what they mean and the signs and the signals, kind of like what Midori says, what will I see and hear to know that this feels good for you? Yeah. What will I see and hear to know that this doesn't feel good for you? Because someone's scrunching up their face, looking like they're in pain, and you stop, they could be on the verge of having the most intense orgasm ever because you just misread what they mean. So for us to be able to learn those things about each other is another part of the sacred communication and learning. So I love hearing this story, Lisa. Gosh, like, you know me, I've been dragging my feet a little bit in this arena. So I'm kind of like, oh shit, what happens when I like, you know, dive in a little bit more into that and swim. So
yeah, here's the thing, honestly, do whatever and while it feels good until it doesn't feel good, and then just say no, and surround yourself with people who know your no. Right. Yeah. I'm, you know, both with Sapio and with Luke, I feel completely safe saying yes, because they'll take my no seriously.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. Wow.
There it is, going back to our no's, which is the continuation from my podcast or my story in the podcast about women owning their no. And Lisa doesn't have to do that from like screaming. She's able to say no. And the guy's like, oh, I get it. She said no. End of story.
Well, and I just had a download that I want to share. And I think it's an important point, is that they have to trust your yes.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Say yes, unless you're an enthusiastic yes. Because if you're a yes and doubting, then it instills doubt in your partner. So if you can be a strong yes, on the occasions when you do say no, they'll know that your no means no, because your yes has always been so full and clear, right?
Yep.
It's important to
Mhm.
have the clear communication so that when and we even came up, as a matter of fact, he and I came up with a code, and it was not original to him. I think it was original to Orion and Amy, is that if I felt uncomfortable or wanted to get out of the situation I was in and didn't feel comfortable saying no, my safe word was, can I have a refill?
Good.
Right? So my emergency get me out of this situation was, can I have a refill, please? So that means that I'm just saying, hey, could you get me some more water? But that gives them an opportunity to say, well, why don't you come with me? Or, let me get that for you. Hold on just a second, help, and be able to tell who I'm talking to. It's just my sign for help without wanting to say I'm feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And, so again, it was an opportunity for us to have clear communication with each other. It was also good.
Beautiful things. So much more to come, as always. So many people to come, Lisa. Again. Thank you all so much for listening to this latest episode of The Playful Dom, The Poly Wife, and The Virgin. Know that there's so much waiting for you. Let's just help you build a really great playground so you can feel safe. And we're available for coaching and events and trainings and mentorship and retreats and all the good things, and kinky toys too. Oh my, there's so much there to explore. Thank you all so much. We look forward to connecting and catching you on our next podcast.
Want more? Head over to theplayfulpodcast.com for all the juicy things we have to offer. From there, you can join our community where you can get access to after hours, attend upcoming workshops and events, and even book a session. Bye for now.